What's happening? Thanks for joining me on this Thursday morning. Much appreciated as always. One thing, first things first, before we get to the Celtics and the Patriots, I was at Minicamp yesterday, obviously watched game 3 last night. First things first, though, no show tomorrow. Have some personal obligations, some things I've got to take care of. So no show tomorrow. We'll have a long weekend. Everybody enjoy your weekend coming up. Hopefully have a great time. So we'll make this one a good one. We'll get to that Patriots minicamp and the observations that I had in just a bit. But we start with the Celtics. We have to start with the Celtics. They are obviously the story in sports right now. They are the story here in Boston. And they won last night, 106-99 against the Mavericks down in Dallas. And in the third quarter was really the difference maker, right? That third quarter might have been the best quarter of basketball I've seen the Celtics play in quite some time. You could argue that the third quarter last night was the best quarter that they've played all year long, given the circumstances and how big that game was. 35-19, plus 16 in the third quarter. Constant ball movement. Unbelievable, right? It was like hot potato getting swung around the perimeter, touching the paint, finding the open shooters. The ball movement was terrific through that quarter. The paint touches were there. Sometimes you had multiple paint touches, drive and kick, drive and kick, drive and kick. And when you see that ball movement and when the Celtics are touching the paint as much as they did in that third quarter, that's when you see the Celtics have their best offensive stretches. And that's what we saw last night through that 12 minutes. An unbelievable quarter of basketball. And it wasn't just great because of the offense. It was also spectacular because of the defense. To start this game off, Dallas was getting whatever they wanted. They kept getting into the paint nonstop. Luka getting into the paint, Kyrie getting into the paint. But as the game went on, and especially when you got into that third quarter, the C's made it tougher on Dallas to get to that paint, to create opportunities. They gave up nothing but really tough shots in that third. Close the paint down, contest those shots. Looking at the numbers of the third quarter, offensively, the Celtics shot 13 of 20. That's 65%. They shot 5 of 11 from 3. That's 45.5%. Jaylen Brown was a monster. 6 of 9 from the field, 1 of 3 from 3, hit both of his free throws. He had 15 points in the third quarter alone. Tatum wasn't bad either. Tatum shot 3 of 6 from the floor. He was 1 of 4 from 3. He had 7 points. So Tatum and Brown combined for 22 of the 35 points that were scored in that third quarter. 8 assists on 13 field goals. Sharing the basketball, finding the open man. And defensively, the Celtics did not take a step back whatsoever. They took a step forward. Dallas shot only 38% from the field in that third. The Celtics only gave up 2 3-point attempts in the third quarter. Giving up only 2 threes in a quarter is ridiculous. That means that your ball pressure is there. You've got some high pickup points. It means that you're closing on shots, right? You're contesting almost everything. And that's what you saw. 2 3-point field goal attempts in the entire quarter for Dallas. Celtics had 8 assists in the quarter on 13 field goals. Dallas had only 4 assists in that quarter. They scored a total of 19 points. That was a dominant quarter of basketball and the difference in this game when you look back. Now, while the Celtics were doing great in the third quarter, Luka Doncic was awful. And that's not hyperbole. It's not. Matt Moore tweeted this out last night. Luka in the third quarter last night had a defensive rating of 153. That is laughable. That's almost like no effort. A defensive rating of 153. That's why when I say that Luka was awful in the third quarter, it ain't hyperbole. It is fact. He was awful in the third quarter. 153 defensive rating. He scored 8 points, but he took 6 shots. 6 shots for 8 points. He did not have a single assist in the third quarter. Luka was a sieve defensively. He was captain hero iso ball in that third quarter, scored 8 points on 6 shots. He was bad after halftime, especially in that third. As the Celtics were cooking, Luka was a mess. You know who wasn't a mess in the second half? Jaylen Brown. He went bananas. 10 of 16 in the second half. 10 of 16. 2 of 6 from 3. Knocked down both of his free throws. Brown had 24 points in the second half. 24, 5, and 3 in the second half. And maybe the best thing about that half of basketball from Brown is the fact that he turned the basketball over only once in the entire half. 1 turnover. He finished the game with 30 points, 8 rebounds, 8 dimes. He shot better than 50% from the field. He was 12 of 22. He was 10 for 13 inside three-point land. He almost couldn't miss from 2 last night. 10 of 13. And what he's doing is historical when you look at the Celtics. And that, again, is not going beyond reason. That is not hyperbolic. Dick Lipe last night posted this. Jaylen Brown, in 7 straight playoff games, has scored 20-plus points and shot better than 50% from the field. 7 straight playoff games. Now, I'm not a genius, but that tells me the beginning of the Eastern Conference through the first 3 games of the finals. From the beginning of that Indiana series, Jaylen Brown is giving you 20-plus points a night, shooting better than 50% from the field every single game, game in, game out. That ties the franchise record set by Larry Bird in 1984. That's how good Jaylen Brown has been since the beginning of that Indiana series. And as we sit there and we talk about Jaylen Brown's second half, we also have to give love to Jason Tatum's first half. Tatum saved the Celtics in that first half. Dallas came out with the haymaker. If it wasn't for Tatum carrying the offense, doing all that he could do in the first 24 minutes of that game last night, the Celtics never recover. I don't think they have that third quarter, and that game is pretty much over, and this series is 2-1. But Tatum's first half, he scored 20 points in the first half. That first half kept the Celtics in the game, and not only that, allowed the Celtics to be right there at halftime and to build off of that and do what they did in that third quarter. Tatum was attacking the paint. He knocked down some threes. On the night, he finished with 31, 6, and 5. I thought he did settle for too many shots in the second half, but it is what it is. He attacked late in the game at least. So what you had last night was you had Tatum saving the team in the first half and Brown carrying the team in the second half. Can we stop with this Tatum or Brown stuff? It's not an or question. It's and. Tatum and Brown. Tatum in the first, Brown in the second. Brown finished what Tatum started last night, scoring more than 60 points combined. And when you have that kind of attack, when you've got Tatum playing like that for a half, when you've got Brown playing like that for a half, it is very difficult to beat this team. Let's give a shout out, by the way, to the bench. How about the freaking bench last night? Now, Peyton Pritchard played some good defense. He has been almost a 0 offensively, aside from that huge banked 3 in game 2 at the end of the third quarter. But the bench last night, Sam Hauser shows up. He shot 3 of 4 from 3. He played really good defense. You know, these teams keep hunting Sam Hauser. I find that to be funny. They keep hunting Hauser, and Hauser keeps defending well. Tim Hardaway hunting Hauser last night to no avail. By the way, Tim Hardaway Jr. hunting Derek White and getting his shot blocked. Did you look at the scouting report, Tim? But Sam Hauser holding up defensively, knocking down some threes. He was plus 16 on the night. The other guy I want to talk about is Xavier Tillman. And boy, was I wrong. I could have not been more wrong than I was. I said on this podcast that I would stay away from Tillman. I would stay away from Brissett. I would stay away from Cornette. Because I'm afraid, with Porzingis out, I'm afraid those guys would get cooked. And man, was I freaking wrong about Tillman. Tillman was great last night. And you can look at his stats and say, really, Nick? 4 rebounds, couple blocks, like a 3? No. He was great last night. Let's appreciate the fact that Tillman has hardly played for the C's since the trade. He has not played much at all in this postseason. He gets plopped into game 3 of the NBA Finals, and they're like, hey, how about you defend Luka one-on-one? He held up. He held up. He was great on the glass, came up with a couple of blocks, hit that corner three. By the way, great drive and kick by Jaylen Brown, found the open man. Tillman knocks down that open three. He was just tremendous defensively. He was great. He was a +9. So Hauser was a +16. Tillman was a +9. I apologize, Xavier Tillman. I will never doubt you again. I will never doubt you again, Xavier. That's on me, buddy. And what Mazzulla said last night in the postgame was interesting. He said they played Tillman because of Tillman's history in the Western Conference, that Tillman was used to playing against Dallas. And he also said, Mazzulla also mentioned that Memphis approached Dallas in a very, very similar way as the Celtics do. So Mazzulla thought it would not be as tough on Tillman because Tillman had played against this team, against Luka, for Memphis, very much the same game plan. And he thought Tillman would be able to roll right into this series and make a difference, and he did. Shout out to Joe Mazzulla, who has been excellent in this postseason. Excellent. I'll talk about the math in a minute. We still have to get to the Patriots. Trust me, you're a Patriots fan. You want to stay here. I have lots of observations. I went to minicamp yesterday. I will share my thoughts with you coming up in a little while. As you chill on this Thursday, don't forget, take a second of your time. Doesn't cost you a penny. Give us that thumbs up on the YouTube channel. That's how we grow the traffic on this channel. We beat that algorithm. Give us that like. Throw in a comment. And also subscribe. Subscribing is so important. Trying to get to 3,500 subscribers. Like, comment, subscribe. And if you're checking us out, Spotify, Apple Pods, rate and review. And if you haven't done so yet, make sure you come on over to YouTube to give us that thumbs up. Even if it's not live action, it's fine. All the thumbs count, baby. So come on over from Spotify and Apple Pods and give us that thumbs up. Nick Cattle's YouTube channel. That will help us if you like this video, if you comment, if you subscribe. I appreciate every single one of you. Let's talk about the math. I've talked about the math for a long time. I've talked about the math all season. I talked about the math before the Eastern Conference Finals, before the second round against Cleveland, before the opening round against Miami, and I talked about the math before this final series. 3 is better than 2. Mazzulla lives by the math. And if Dallas can't keep up from the three-point line, if they can't keep it somewhat close, they're going to be in trouble. They're down 3-0 in this series because they're getting spanked at the three-point line. And the Celtics defense has been tremendous, but that goes hand in hand with the three-point line. The math, again, was all for the Celtics last night. They took 46 threes. Dallas only took 25. So you're taking 21 more three-point attempts than Dallas. That's a great start. Celtics made 17 threes. Dallas made 9. Not a math major, but that tells me that the Celtics were a +24 from three-point land. So right off the bat, three-point line, Celtics are +24. Dallas won the paint. They won the paint significantly last night, but it didn't matter. It didn't matter that Dallas won in the paint. Just like Evan Mobley going off for Cleveland, scoring 35, didn't matter when most of those points came in the paint. Because on the other end, the Celtics are roasting you from 3, and 3 beats 2 every single time. And so, yes, you give Dallas some of those post points. You allow them to score in that paint. Let them attack the restricted area and score some points there, because if you're coming back down and taking threes and knocking down those threes at a good percentage, you're going to win the game. You're going to win the series. So you can give up those paint points, but you're +24 from 3. You'll take that. Celtics shot 57% from three-point land, 37%. 50 would have been nuts. They shot 37% from three-point land last night, and it's all about the paint touches. As I've said, you touch the paint, you spray the basketball out. If the Celtics touch the paint, they will score points in this series. They had trouble in the first 7 or 8 minutes of that fourth quarter last night. Why? Because they stopped touching the paint. It was too much ISO, too much perimeter, too much swing, shoot, or dribble, 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 shoot. That's the difference between the third quarter and the fourth quarter. You go back and you watch that second half last night. Watch the third quarter and how many times the Celtics touched the paint. Think about Derek White's huge three late in the fourth quarter. Why does that happen? Because Drew Holiday goes baseline, he touches the paint, wraparound pass, White, wide ass open above the break, knocks down the three, gigantic shot. Touch the paint. If you touch the paint, you win. You score points. In the fourth quarter, they got away from that a little bit, and then that's when Dallas made their run. But Dallas, after making the run, they still lost because the Celtics were able to close it out again. We've spent so much time talking about this team, clutch minutes, closing games out. Last night again, final few minutes, big stops, big rebounds. You had the White three. You had that Jaylen Brown ridiculous mid-range 18-foot jump shot that he knocked down to push the lead up to 4. It's just a huge, huge shot in that moment. And I think it's time we can stop talking about clutch minutes in the Celtics. Ben Rohrbach, Yahoo, on Celtics in the clutch this postseason. The Celtics in clutch minutes in these games, they're 6-0. Their offensive rating is 127.9. Their defensive rating is 83.3. Their net rating is 46.9. I mean, they're dominating clutch minutes in the postseason. Dominating. 62.2% true shooting percentage. They've rebounded 57% of the shots. Their assist percentage is almost 62%. Dominant. They're not just winning these clutch minutes, they're dominating these freaking clutch minutes. Michael Pina from The Ringer posted, in Game 3, Boston's crunch time offensive rating was 122.2. Its defensive rating was 62.5. For the playoffs, the Celtics are a league best plus 26 in the last 5 minutes of a game where the scoring margin is 5 points or fewer. We can stop talking about clutch minutes. The C's have been dominant in clutch time play this postseason. When I was doing the postgame on 98.5 The Sports Hub on Sunday night, I asked my buddy Sean Silver one simple question. Does Dallas have any chance of winning this series if they can't score more than 100 points? The answer from Sean was unequivocally no. Dallas has not scored 100 yet in this series. Celtics defense has been ridiculous. And if Dallas can't score 100, they're in trouble because you feel really good about the Celtics' chances of scoring 105, 108, 110. I mean, the Celtics have not even had a complete offensive game yet in this series. If they do that, they're scoring 130. And Dallas, they can't break a hunch. It's a problem for them. Not a problem for the Celtics. Not a problem for this podcast, which you can like, comment, subscribe, rate, and review as you watch us and help the program out. Luka and Kyrie scored 62 points combined, and the Dallas Mavericks still lost. And if you watch the game, like many of you have, you watch this series, tough shots, man. The Celtics are forcing Kyrie and Luka to take tough shots. If you're going to beat us, you guys are going to have to be unbelievable. You're going to have to be unbelievable 4 games in this series to beat us. That's what they've said from the very beginning. If you want to go Superman on us, go Superman on us. Kyrie was Superman in the first half. Didn't matter. Still had a game at halftime. Still came out and smoked him in the third. They're forcing tough shots. Dallas is a lot of ISO basketball. Dallas had 15 assists last night. The Celtics had 26. Stu Greeny posted this out in the morning. Assist percentage in the finals. The Celtics' assist percentage is 67.8%. Dallas's is 40.5%. It's ISO. That's all it is. The Celtics are playing straight up, and they're telling Luka and Kyrie, if you want to play ISO basketball, dribble 15 seconds off the clock and take a tough shot, be our guest. And if you make those, congratulations, we give you credit. But we're going to come back down, and we're going to play our game. We're going to drive, we're going to kick, we're going to share the basketball, ball movement, man movement. That's what we're going to do. And if you can't handle it, then you can't handle it. And Dallas is stuck in this ISO vortex constantly in this series. taking tough shots. And by the time they get to the fourth quarter, Luka's gassed. Kyrie might not be as hot anymore. I mean, you go back and you watch that shot from Kyrie towards the end of the game, right? When Al was on him and Al contested that three. It's an incredibly difficult shot in a must-have-it kind of moment. That's why when Luka hits these crazy turnaround mid-range jump shots, you're going to give him those shots every single time, even if he makes them, because they're tough shots. If Luka wants to go out there tomorrow night and try to be Superman and score 60, let him try to be Superman and score 60. I said from the very beginning of this series, Luka's going to Luka. You let him Luka. If you slow down the other guys, it doesn't matter. And by the way, Luka's sixth foul was a foul. So all the people can shut up that are yapping and crying about that. His sixth foul was a foul. You have to take a drive pretty much right in the chest, okay? If you want to take a charge, you've got to take it right in the chest. Luka was not lined up. He wasn't lined up. Brown clipped him in the hip. And you can't, if you're the referees and you're the officiating crew, you can't take away that fast break opportunity for the Celtics. So you're either going to take away that fast break and let that play on, which would have been outrageous to me, or you call the foul. If you don't call the foul, it's unfair to the Celtics, right? Because they made the stop. They got out in transition. Jalen knew Luka had 5 fouls. He put the pressure on Luka, and Luka fouled him. That's how this works. That foul was a freaking foul. So stop it. Stop crying. Stop complaining. It was what it was. And by the way, if you don't hook Jaylen Brown around the neck for another foul, we wouldn't even be talking about this. So give me a break with the 6th foul. It was the right call, and it was the right review process. One more note before we get to the Patriots and minicamp. I just want to put this into perspective. I've tried to do this a number of times on Twitter at Nick C Radio. If you want to follow me at Nick C Radio, I've done this a number of times as well on this podcast. For those who have listened consistently, you know this. I've been saying to Celtics fans, we need to appreciate this team. In the regular season, we needed to appreciate what they did. It didn't mean that we were happy, fat, and content. It didn't mean that it wasn't go get banner 18. It wasn't any of that. It was appreciating how ridiculously dominant this team was throughout the 82-game schedule. This was one of the best regular seasons that we've seen in NBA history, and that should be appreciated. I also said, let's see what happens in the playoffs. And up until this moment, they have been just as dominant in the postseason as they were in the regular season. They are now 79-20. If they win tomorrow night, they win 80% of the games they played this year. That's mind-blowing. If they win game 4 and they close this series out in Dallas, they would have won 80 of their 100 games. Crazy. They've won 10 straight playoff games. They've won 7 straight games on the road. Have to appreciate what they've done. On June 13th, 2024, they are on an absolute heater. And if they close this series out, especially if they close it out tomorrow night, this will go down as literally one of the greatest seasons an NBA team has ever had. And I don't think enough people have appreciated that in the media world. Not even close. And that's about the media and not the Celtics. I'll tell you that right now. All right, let's jump to the Patriots. Like, comment, subscribe, rate, and review. Appreciate every single one of you on this Thursday. I remind you, tomorrow, no podcast. I've got some personal obligations I've got to take care of, some personal business. So I got to get to that tomorrow. No podcast for you. My apologies. But we will be back on Monday. Who knows if the Celtics close it out tomorrow night? I might jump on live YouTube and drink with all of you. We'll see how that goes. It's TBD. All right, so yesterday, first time at camp for the Patriots. So love that. Appreciate my guy, Greg Bedard, who hooked me up, Boston Sports Journal, with a media pass for me to get there and watch. And I have lots of observations. I'll give you the disclaimer we always give with the Patriots this early. It's minicamp. We all understand that. There are no pads. We're not jumping to any grandiose conclusions here. We're not going bananas. But we have to observe what's happening, and we got to see how this team is progressing as we get ready now for training camp, which is about a month or so away. My first observation, the offensive line, not great. Again, no pads, minicamp, June. We all know that. But the offensive line was not very good. The pass rush was consistently breaking through, consistently bothering the quarterbacks, getting pressure on Brissett, getting pressure on Maye. The O-line was not good. The left side was getting beat. The right side was getting beat. The middle of the offensive line was also getting beat at times. It just wasn't good. And Brissett and Maye had almost no time to do much of anything, especially between the 20s. Between the 20s, it was hell on earth for Maye and Brissett for a lot of those snaps. And it wasn't on Jacoby, and it wasn't on Drake. It was as soon as a snap of the football happened, you had one or two guys in the backfield ready to eat. Very difficult circumstances for the QBs yesterday with that O-line. O-line has to be better. That's the first observation. My top takeaway. If you ask me, Nick, what's the top takeaway? What's your top concern right now? I would say figuring out that offensive line. It's early. They have plenty of time to do so, but that O-line was incredibly leaky. So didn't love that. Caden Wallace. Speaking of the O-line, Caden Wallace played at least a couple of snaps at left tackle yesterday. He did get to the left side. We talked about this earlier in the week. I did not understand why Wallace was playing all at right tackle. He was exclusively at right tackle for the first mandatory minicamp, and he was there at OTAs. Yesterday, he did sneak a few snaps in on the left side. And I would say overall he was okay. I would also say he probably doesn't want to see Keon White anytime soon across from him. But I thought Wallace, he played some snaps at left tackle. Owenu was at right guard pretty much the entire time. So we're getting close to the point. We'll see what happens in training camp because these things can change. But from what we've seen recently, Owenu is the right guard. It's not Leverett. It's not So. It's not Robinson. Right now, Mike Owenu is your right guard. We talked about that a lot during the week. I don't want to waste any more time on it. You can check the prior pods on the channel. But Owenu was getting pretty much all the snaps at right guard. Wallace was getting snaps at right tackle for the most part. So your offensive line, you're looking at it as you get ready for training camp. As of right now, what I would say, if you go off of the snaps that we've seen during the last couple of practices, it would be Chooks left tackle. It would be Sidy Sow left guard, David Andrews center. Right guard would be Mike Owenu. Right tackle would be Caden Wallace. We'll see if that continues to be the case. Gerard Mayo did say before practice when we talked to him that he's going to pick the best 5 offensive linemen, and he's going to play the best 5 offensive linemen. And I think that's the right approach. You know, as disappointed or frustrated as you could be with Wallace maybe not working out on the left side and, you know, pushing Owenu from right tackle to right guard, as disappointed or frustrated as you can be about those moments and those decisions, the big picture is get your best 5 offensive linemen. And that's what Mayo said they will do. They will get their best 5 up front. They will play those guys. And that's the right approach in the big picture. Forget the ego. Forget about what the quote-unquote plan was. You don't stick to your plan out of stubbornness. You can go in with a plan. You know, Mike Tyson said, you know, it's great to have a plan until you get punched in the mouth. Well, you can have a plan on offensive line going in, but if you see things developing in a certain way, just get your best 5 out there to protect the quarterback and create some lanes for the run game. So big picture, it's the right way to go. Forget the ego. Don't be stubborn. Drake Maye. Let's talk about Drake Maye, shall we? I thought he was really good in the red zone. Really good in the red zone. He had not one, not two, but 3 touchdown passes in the red zone. And what I saw from Maye is that in the red zone versus how he looks between the 20s, Maye is more decisive in the red zone. And I think it's because he knows he has less time. He has a shortened field. Things are going to be tight. He seems more decisive in the red zone versus between the 20s from what I saw yesterday. But he was really good in the red zone. He had great touch on some fade routes. And, I thought Maye did enough yesterday to make you feel good about his minicamp going into training camp. 7-on-7s, 11-on-11s, in between the 20s, again, was tough. But I don't really put that on Drake, and I don't put it on Jacoby. I put it on the offensive line. Now, Drake threw a pick, and he had a funky play where he looked like, I don't know if he was like panicked or if he didn't know what he saw in front of him or he was just trying to get rid of the ball. There was one snap, one play where it looked a little clunky and funky, and he just kind of threw it to the right side, and it ended up being like 5 to 10 yards short of the receiver. So I don't know what happened there, but I think the offensive line is the biggest issue. You straighten that out, I would think your quarterbacks would look better, at least slightly better in between the 20s. But when you get to the red zone, Maye was really good. And it's obvious that this is Drake Maye, Jacoby Brissett. It is a 2-horse race at quarterback. That was the case on Monday, first mandatory minicamp. That was the case again yesterday. Brissett and Maye got the majority of the snaps. I don't even think Bailey Zappi got a single 11-on-11 snap. He was hardly out there yesterday. In totality, he probably got 4 or 5 snaps on the day. Joe Milton, he was out there. He was doing nothing. He did drills. He didn't take part in any of the 7-on-7s, 11-on-11s, the red zone stuff. He didn't do any of that. He did more dancing and backflipping than anything else. So Joe Milton looks, targeted for the practice squad or emergency third quarterback, whatever they decide to do. Judging by what's happened in minicamp, it's tough for me to believe that Bailey Zappi makes this team. And I would not be surprised if Zappi is gone by the beginning of August. We'll see how it works out. Of course, if an injury happens, then anything can happen. Zappi can find his way back in. But this is Brissett, Drake Maye. That's it. The other quarterbacks don't even need to be discussed right now. This is Brissett versus Maye as we get into training camp. Jalen Polk was good yesterday. Again, he had 2 touchdowns. He had 2 touchdowns yesterday. He had 2 touchdowns on Monday. The mathematician in me says that's 4 total touchdowns in minicamp for Jalen Polk. He was really good in the red zone. He made a tremendous catch to end the day. I mean, just an unbelievable catch in the corner of the end zone. He's parallel to the ground. It was a fantastic throw by Drake Maye, by the way. He just kind of feathered it, fade route to the corner of the end zone, and Polk made this diving catch parallel to the ground. And those mitts we talked about when he got drafted, his great hands were on display yesterday with this touchdown catch that ended minicamp. It was just a tremendous catch by Jalen Polk. Just great hands. And he plays faster. When you see him out there, he plays faster. In drills, he looks faster, more elusive than you would think. I continue to be a Jalen Polk stan. I think he's going to be good this season. I think Patriots fans are going to be very happy with his rookie campaign. I think he is going to produce from the jump. I would not be surprised if we're talking 40, 50 catches for Jalen Polk this year if he stays healthy. I thought yesterday he played well. The other receiver that showed out was Kayshon Boutte. I will give Boutte big-time credit. He had 2 touchdowns. Now, he did have a drop, but he had 2 touchdowns in practice yesterday. One of them was a highly contested catch. Defensive back was all over him. I can't remember who the back was. Might have been Victor, might have been somebody else. But Boutte had a great catch from Drake Maye. Drake Maye found him a couple times. He had a great catch, a contested catch. That was his first touchdown catch from Drake Maye. And then he had a second touchdown catch. It was another fade route to the corner of the end zone. Boutte caught it. So Maye and Kayshon Boutte Maye and Jalen Polk, there's some chemistry there yesterday between those guys. So I thought Booty was pretty damn good yesterday. And I talked to some people on the scene, and Booty's had a pretty good spring. Does it mean anything? We don't know. We'll see what happens in training camp, but Booty's had a pretty good spring. But right now, the two receivers that have really shown out the most, Polk and Booty. Javon Baker was not on the field yesterday. Tyquan Thornton was not on the field yesterday. KJ Osborne was on the field. He didn't do too much. Juju Smith-Schuster, if you're wondering, Juju doesn't look like he's going full throttle, to quote Tom Warner. Now, is he not going full throttle because it's June? He's a veteran. He's trying to save the bullets in the chamber. We'll see. But Juju looked like he was going pretty much half to three-quarters speed for the most part. Osborne didn't make too many plays. I mean, the day was all about Jalen Polk and Kayshon Boutte at receiver. And Maye in the red zone. The positives from that offense that you take away, that. I've got another name, too, that we got to keep an eye on. That's JaMycal Hasty. He also showed up a little bit in practice yesterday. And I was talking to Alex Barth, and Alex said, look, Alex thinks that Hasty could end up being the third back on this team. And he got a little pop to him. Not Pop Douglas. He's got a little pop to him. So that's another guy who kind of made a couple of plays. But Drake May's touch in the red zone, it was nice. Like, comment, subscribe, rate, and review. I have a couple of more Patriots minicamp observations before we bounce. Again, no podcast tomorrow. Got some personal business I got to attend to, so no pod tomorrow. Like, comment, subscribe, rate, review today. Keion White. Keion freaking White. You want to talk about impact? White had impact. The disclaimer again, minicamp, no pads, I get it. But Keion White was living in the backfield yesterday. He was a menace. And we heard about Keion White during OTAs. The coach is very happy with him. He's been more vocal. They feel like when you hear the coaches, it feels like they believe White could truly take a step forward this year, and a rather big step forward. And you never know if it's just people squawking. You don't know if it's the coaches talking somebody up, right? But watching White yesterday and reading about White from other reporters before I got to go live yesterday, White has had a heck of a spring. And he was damn good yesterday. That's what these two eyes saw. And if Keion White can be a difference maker on the edge, and you keep hold of Matthew Judon, whether you sign him to an extension or whatever, if Judon is on this team this year, if he doesn't get traded, if you have Judon on one edge and you have Keion White on another edge, the way Keion White has looked this spring, that could be pretty damn fun to watch as a Patriots fan this year. So I was very happy with what I saw from White yesterday. We'll see how that continues to develop. Interestingly enough, Judon and Baker were supposed to talk to the media. That's what we were told before practice began. They did not talk to the media. Judon was at practice. He was out there. He took part in everything. Baker was not there. Baker, we know he's been limited due to injury, so likely it was an injury thing, but we did not see Baker out there, not even through drills. He took part in drills on Monday. He was MIA yesterday, so no Javon Baker, and Judon did not talk either. So pretty interesting. Maybe Judon decided not to talk because he went on the Rich Shirt and Leap show this week, as we talked about, discussing his contract. So maybe he decided that he just didn't want to talk. There was really no explanation. Baker was kind of chalked up to the injury. So hopefully Baker can get on the field at training camp, because if not, it's going to be a Tyquan Thornton kind of situation where he misses so much time in the spring and during training camp that all of a sudden he's not going to be able to be a contributor in the regular season. So hopefully Javon gets right over the next month or so. Gerard Mayo discussed Devon Godchow, pretty much confirmed to the media that Godchow was holding in. And Mayo also mentioned that there are a number of Patriots looking for their contracts to be addressed. So we should not overlook that either. Who are these others? Jonathan Jones, he was out there on the field yesterday, so that was good to see. But Godchow looks like he's a straight-up hold-in. And as we get closer to training camp over this next month, are the Patriots, does Elliott Wolf take care of business with Judon? Does he take care of business with Godchow? Do we see some of these veterans? I thought it was interesting. Mayo said yesterday that sometimes teams value certain players more than the outside world. I found that comment to be very interesting. And I wonder if that's kind of setting the stage for one or multiple guys getting contract extensions that might seem a little bit heavy to the quote-unquote outside world. We'll have to wait and see. All right, that'll do it for the podcast today. I appreciate every single one of you. Before you leave, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Rate and review Spotify, Apple Pods. You can matriculate on over to YouTube to give us that like and to subscribe. Even if it's not part of your daily routine to watch, you can still help us out. Patreon page, exclusive content, $5 a month as well. You can check that out. Patreon.com/Nick Cattles. Everybody have a great weekend. No pod tomorrow. Personal business to take care of. Maybe a pod tomorrow night. If the Celtics close it out, I might pop up, drink beers with all of you. But until then, be good. Have a great weekend if we don't talk, and enjoy yourself.